The extortions allegations are Sammy Gyamfi are leveled against the minority leader of parliament, Alexander Kwame Afenyo Makeno, is getting milkier and milkier by the day. Solomon Owusu, the communications director at the United Party, on a lawyer, Andrew Apiadankwa, omo a petition 5 state institutions as special prosecutor's office eka ho se omo hwehwe sa claims a Sammy Gyamfi ede aba bonten efa Alexander Afenyo Maken ho no eho special prosecutor issue public notice or say we receive 2 joint petitions and so different petitions from 2 other people. News alert GH Mesre. So be share video we edi ama me na afen so wa subscribe to the channel no afen yenko ensem so into details with the allegations and counter allegations are so between the minority caucus in parliament. Afenyo Maken oye omu leader and afen so gold board and Sammy Gyamfi oye omu chief executive officer no and Sammy Gyamfi aba bonten abe make some shocking revelations be say Afenyo Maken extortionist na said your old chile money dear, not just Afenyo Maken, bepe bibi efri no ho wan farmer no eno, and a nam 20 wetu nani, esi or no Sammy Gyamfi any gold board for one. Now way and Afenyo Maken, eba bonten beka se enya de se obeko court. Anche and osadi statement eba bonten se or june ho se obesu Sammy Gyamfi sa allegations no ho. Ade chen ya Afenyo Maken assign abeka se biem or say Jesus Christ kra no ye de assemto ne so na oyedi inti ono Afenyo Maken wa ye din eno na Solomon Owusu ene ne lawyer omo se ade we entene omo tirim se Afenyo Maken e di bibi esia omra bonten na omeyi ne ho ano enye sade a onfa Sammy Gyamfi enkogina court na on seal ne for defamation but until say obeyesa no ono Solomon Owusu one ne lawyer oma petition the IGP Office of the Special Prosecutor, any other state institutions are ekeka hon CHRAJ mu nyina omo a petition omo enti enam so ama Solomon Owusu ne lawyer aye frɛ no Andrew Apiadankwa wa granting interview na wa kyerɛ de enti a omo a petition state institutions we say omo hwehwɛ sa ensem we mu.
Roland, thank you once again for this opportunity to explain the reason why Mr. Solomon Owusu, my brother, and myself believe that the issues that were raised concerning the gold board issues ought not to be left hanging. But it's in the interest of this democracy. It is in the interest of the principles that underpins this democracy that investigations are done. 2, 1. Determine the veracity or not of the allegations, and if indeed they are true, then the terms of our constitution, the terms of our criminal laws ought to be enforced in the interest of our country. Now, let me give a background. You know, in 1992, the people of Ghana took upon themselves a constitution. They took upon themselves this constitution, believing that it represented the best framework in which we could secure for ourselves and posterity the blessings of liberty, equality of opportunity, and prosperity. The Constitution also made it clear that all sovereign power belongs to the people, not some. All sovereign power belongs to the people. And here, when we say sovereign power, we mean executive power, legislative power, judicial power, all belongs to us, the people. However, we have ceded these powers to certain persons, and the persons we have ceded the powers to are to use these powers for one reason only. They must exercise the power in a manner and within the limits laid down in this constitution for the welfare of the people. So, to that end, and in my opinion, based on our checkered constitutional democratic history, the constitution itself then created institutions which, in the opinion of the constitution, ought to be the vanguard of the principles that would secure for us this constitutional democracy. One of the critical institutions was CHRAJ. And when you read our constitution, one of the fundamental duties our constitution grants CHRAJ is to be the ombudsman for accountability, especially when it comes to matters that borders on abuse of power. Now, Our view has been that our constitution has woefully failed to deliver on this promise. The promise of the promises are earlier stated being was for the blessings of liberty, equality of opportunity, and prosperity. Our constitution has fundamentally failed to secure for us these ideals. And our view is that the reason why it's failed to secure for us these promises is because of the culture, the political culture in our country. In our view, our political culture is very parochial as against patriotic. We have a very negative constitutional culture because we failed to show fidelity to the values of our constitution. And for us, our view is that that culture ought to stop, and we want to draw a line that going forward we ought to deliberately create a political culture, a political culture that will hold political leadership accountable, and to a constitutional culture that demands patriotism and that demands an unalloyed fidelity to the values and principles stated clearly in our constitution. To that end, we take the allegations that Honorable Sammy Gyamfi made very, very seriously. One, because of the position he holds, because of his personal reputation, as in he's somebody that Solomon and myself respect a lot. And so that when Sammy Gyamfi speaks, we think that it ought not to be looked at as if it were a joke. You understand? Now, what essentially is Sammy Gyamfi saying? Sammy Gyamfi is saying that the former majority leader of the Parliament of Ghana, the current minority leader of the Parliament of Ghana, has attempted extorting from him. Now, when we say extortion, what does it simply mean? It means that when somebody wants to forcibly take money from you or take a property from you so that he would not divulge certain information about you. Now, we know that extortion is a crime under our laws. I think Section 151 is a crime under our laws. 2, if indeed the minority leader of Ghana, the former majority leader, currently the minority leader, who is exercising powers that belongs to the people, and so to that end, he is our agent. You understand? And our constitution makes it clear that he should use those powers within the limits of our constitution, but to what end? To the interest and welfare of the people. So if he's using those powers in a manner, you understand, that will inure to his private benefit, then it constitutes a fundamental betrayal, a fundamental breach of the powers we gave him. And to that end, if those allegations are true, then one, we ought to take action as prescribed by our constitution. So CHRAJ has to look at it. And if it means that he has to be sacked as an MP and as a minority, then we take that step, not to change the constitution in this country. And 2, if it also constitutes a crime, then the criminal action must be taken against him, because also one of the fundamental principles that underpins our constitution is the principle of the rule of law. And the rule of law says we are all equal before the law. And so we ought to change that culture where people will be granted our powers to suddenly assume a position of they being above the law. We are all equal before the law. And we must guard those values jealously. It is to this end and the impact that negative culture has had on the ability of Ghana to fulfill the promises of our democracy, that Solomon Owusu and myself have petitioned the necessary bodies to have a thorough investigation into the allegations. Now, if the investigations are done and it comes out that indeed there was extortion, then we must apply the laws to its fullest limits. If it turns out that the allegations are not true, then to be in the national interest that also appropriate steps are taken to protect the reputation of the honorable minority leader. Because you see, where we are as the people, we can't continue doing the politics in the manner in which we have done our politics. You understand? Beyond the reset agenda and all, we need to bring some sanctity into our politics. We need to create a culture that would ensure that this constitutional democracy we've taken upon ourselves can be sustained and protected, we need to have a constitutional culture that ensures that the values that we have copiously stated as being values that underpins our constitution are upheld. This business of a politician makes an allegation, someone makes an allegation, and then we reduce this to a talk show or to stop. Because ultimately,
but Lawyer Piadankwa, you and Solomon, so do you have to petition 5 institutions at the same time? The Attorney General, CHRAJ, the OSP, Speaker of Parliament, and even the CID, 5 at a time?
Yes, because like I told you, see, so look at the petition from 2 angles. So there are 2 things we are looking for ultimately. One, the potential abuse of political power, the potential abuse of political power. And we believe that when it comes to investigation concerning the potential abuse of political power, then the proper institutions to deal with are CHRAJ and Parliament itself. 2, the potential criminal allegation of crime. Because I told you Article 1, Section 151 of our criminal code. Unfortunately, you have one of the finest criminal lawyers in studio as we speak. See, people shouldn't be deceived that right now he's CEO. Right, which is one of the finest criminal lawyers you can find in the country. He's in studio, and I'm sure he can explain why extortion, the fact that extortion is a crime under our laws. Because Honorable Sami Jemfi has alleged that it was called Honorable Afenyo, the former majority leader of the Parliament of Ghana, the current minority leader of the Parliament of Ghana, and it's very critical. It's very, very critical because you see people who have taken an oath want to be faithful to Ghana, which means that they're going to be faithful to the values, the ideals, the principles of Ghana. People who have taken an oath to defend, protect, preserve the laws of Ghana, you understand, cannot be seen to be the people breaching the law as if they are above the law. I'm saying because there's an allegation of a crime having been committed, then yes, we have to bring the Attorney General, we have to bring the OSP. Between the 2 of them, they can decide who will prosecute. You have to bring in the IGP, you have to bring in the CID. So a thorough investigation is done into this allegation that has the potential of testing the faithfulness of the people of Ghana in this our constitution.
Okay.
But you see, immediately the people start losing faith in the ability of this our constitution to provide or to fulfill its promises. Our constitutional democracy is gone. And then when you consider the fact that the essence of this constitutional democracy, beyond what I stated earlier, one is to protect our right to our lives.
Okay.
And when it's our right to our lives, it should not be seen just in a negative sense.
You and Solomon Owusu as petitioner, have you formally submitted the petition, or do you intend? When do you intend?
Because we are outside, we sent an email to all the all the institutions that we petitioned, and I'm sure this morning our clerk will fiscally give them copies of. But we've sent soft copies via email to all the institutions.
Solomon Owusu so akasa ose pe nkomo bi a wadi any information si bia owo no na ehun behia se omo be petition sa institutions we a omo petition omo no. Na in the coming days, obeba abonten abe expose encrophobia omo de omo sorry and omo nam state institutions omo ba omo se wo ye wo hu information my this amount of money anye sa ye do ho nsem ebeko abonten o se sankofo ni nyina obeba abonten abete omo to ama omo enim eguase.
What exactly prompted you to file this petition now? What did you hear or see that made you conclude that this had crossed the line from political rhetoric to something requiring a criminal investigation?
Well, when I heard a response from Afenyo, that was what became the red line for myself and my brother Andrea Piadankwa, because we thought that Sami Jemfi had raised a very serious allegation that demanded equally serious response. The least Afenyo could do was to head to the court immediately. But his response did not give us any indication. So we were afraid that this matter will be left at the levels of radio and TV discussions and nothing will be done about it. That is why we said we needed to let people be busy in the system. Yeah.
To let people be busy in the system. Now, you've heard from Honorable Minority Leader. He says that this is a diversionary tactic and that this is something that governments will typically do to sort of water down important issues. He himself and his side in Parliament had addressed the good people of Ghana to make claims about certain losses made by the gold board. We've had extensive discussions about that, and I think we've got some more clarity on that. But what do you say to that rebuttal from him that this is just diversionary tactics, that this has no legs, and much like Jesus, he will be keeping silent?
The man wasn't silent. First of all, who brought this whole issue of gold board into the public discourse? It was Afenyo himself that conducted a press conference that leveled series of allegations against gold board. Now, the gold board CEO takes a stand and also counter-lay allegations or claims against the very person that led the press conference. And this time around, it borders on criminality. Extortion is a crime under our laws. And if you read our Constitution, Article 1, it talks about the sovereignty of this country. The sovereignty of Ghana resides in the people on whose behalf all powers of the state will be exercised for. So when Sami Gyamfi leveled an extortion allegation against Afenyo, we saw it as a very grievous crime, because then it means Afenyo, if it's proven to be true, has not been using the power that is supposed to be used to benefit all of us in our interest, but rather using the very power that has been entrusted to him by us to rather enrich himself. And that is how we view it.
Now, your petition repeatedly refers to an alleged demand for some $1 million. What is your understanding of the source of that specific figure? And are you satisfied that Gold Board CEO Sami Gyamfi has actually made an allegation in those precise terms?
You see, let me put it. We sit on a lot of informations, and in the coming days, we will be exposing a lot of politicians in the country who are putting our brothers and sisters in public office under serious and strenuous pressure. They frame stories, go at them, and then when those that have fainted hearts go and sit them behind the scenes and pay them, though they have not done anything wrong. And that is what this whole banter between Sami Gyamfi and Afenyo is beginning to expose. And like I said, we'll be doing expose on such issues. The country called Ghana is suffering from some of these things, and is the reason why corruption is so rife. If you have public officials who go to their colleague public officials and threaten them with exposing them on matters that borders on criminality, failure not to pay will put them in the bad light, then where are we heading to? If you are Afenyo, the claim by Sami Gyamfi is that Afenyo Markins threatened that if he does not pay, he would expose the gold board. So, granted what Sami Gyamfi is saying is true, does it mean that Sami Gyamfi can do or commit a crime, and once he goes to pay, public officials that are supposed to serve our interests will just sit aloof, they will sit quiet, go mute, and not expose such rots in the system? That is how we see it. And for us, it is not something that we must be toiling with.
And of course, these are very serious allegations, and this is something that we touched on this morning, is that the wider implications could be dire, such that if all it takes is $1 million for certain rods to be covered up, that's definitely not going to bode well for this country called Ghana. Now, Solomon, you mentioned some exposés that we should be looking forward to. How soon should we be looking forward to these?
At the moment, I'm out of the jurisdiction together with my brother Andrew. When we come back, we will be exposing all, because you see, it's becoming one too many.
When are you back?
And we, God willing, by the 5th of September, I should be in the jurisdiction, and then we will be in the process of exposing all. And unfortunately for these people, Helen, can you imagine? They do things with impunity as though there's no tomorrow. They leave traces, they send text messages, they do audio calls, and so on and so forth. They write emails. So people have actually gathered all this information, and then once we petitioned, since yesterday till this morning, they have been sending us a lot of information. And it is mind-blowing. And I can't believe it. Now, why must we do this to ourselves? Public officials are supposed to serve to the best interest of the country. If you are pushing them to be doing things outside their remit, what you are telling them is that, yes, go and steal to come and satisfy our private pockets. And that is why we must take the issue of Afenyo very serious. Remember, Afenyo was once your majority leader.
Indeed.
He was once your board chair of Ghana Water Company. He was once your board chair of the company of Ghana. Happened. Any investigation conclude that indeed Afenyo engaged in extortion, can we quantify the level of extortion that he engaged in whilst he was the majority leader, he was the board chair of Ghana Water Company, he was ECG board chair. And that is how we see it. And this is not to say that he has, as a matter of fact, engaged in any extortion, but should the investigation conclude, Helen, then where would our democracy be heading to? And that is why every Ghanaian must join us in nibbling this in the bud.
Is there a potential then that, it wasn't Afenyo Marking himself making such demands, allegedly, and that perhaps a third party acting on his behalf? Because these are two very different allegations then.
So if you read our petition carefully, we anticipate it could be agents that are representing allegations. Why do you say either third parties and so on and so forth, so that we bring all these Goro boys in the system and deal with them once and for all.
Now, Solomon, I know you have to leave us very shortly, but a few more questions and then we'll bid you farewell and come back in studio. Now, your petition is asking investigators to secure phone records. You're asking for WhatsApp messages, emails, recordings, payment instructions, and device data. What evidence do you currently believe exists, and whose devices or records should investigators be looking at? Whose WhatsApp messages should we be looking at?
So Sami Jemfi was the one that made the allegations. I mean, the voice that you played, he was very emphatic that he was daring Afenyo to sue him, or he was daring Afenyo to appear on the show with him, and he will prove to him that he's an extortionist. So we believe that some of these discussions might have taken place either via phone calls, WhatsApp messages, audio recordings here and there. So he will be the prime suspect in this. Again, we also had Mr. Eric J also collaborate the position of Sami Jemfi. So we believe that he must be having information very vital to any investigations that will be happening. Helen, let me say that our disappointment has to do with the fact that state institutions did not need us to even petition before they kickstart any investigations. I mean, why must OSP sit down when allegations of extortion is being leveled against a public official? Why must Parliament not issue a statement on it? What about CHRAJ, abuse of power or abuse of office?
Office of the Special Prosecutor also issue a public notice. Na omo di ensem bi abetudwa. Almost say allegations of extortion against the minority leader of parliament. The Office of the Special Prosecutor, OSP, has taken note of public allegations of extortion and related conduct made by the Chief Executive of Ghana Gold Board, Sami Jemfi, against the leader or minority leader of parliament, Alexander Afenyo. The OSP also acknowledges a joint petition submitted by two persons as well as two separate petitions submitted by other persons in relation to the allegations. Given the nature of the allegations, the OSP will assess the case and determine whether it falls within its statutory mandate and whether further investigative action is warranted. And enso ne nsemo a the Office of the Special Prosecutor ede abebom yede ani ebedi sa ensemo echi na ya hwede ebekọ akosi ewo ho aha eye news alert gh wonso obetimi ede wadwenkyere aba down below in the comment section na ya toatoa adwene ewo ho Mesrel so be share video we edi ama me na afen so wa subscribe to the channel no. Click on the notification bell so the be am the new update bi atumu a won so wonsa ebe kana wenya bi ahwe. Meda wase se oje bre na wo hwe me. Ye besan ye hia biem. Meda ase.